Hi, Chase Oaks. I hope we're doing wonderful. It's great to be with you. I want to welcome all of our campuses, 544, Sloan Creek. I hope you're fantastic today. All of you that are here at the Legacy campus, man, it's great to see you. You look beautiful. And I just want to tell everybody that's online, all around the world, thanks for being a part of all the amazing things that God's doing right here at Chase Oaks. It's great to have you. So today is a really exciting day for me. We're starting a brand new series. It's called Sweet Digs, and we're going to be talking about God's presence amongst us and with us, okay? We're going to talk about that specifically. We're going to talk about God's dwelling place, okay? And so I've been studying and praying and preparing and thinking about this for like months now, and I'm just like about to explode because I'm so fired up to be with you and share this for the next 3 weeks. And so I just want to encourage you. It's each week is going to build on the week before. And so I might ask you to come all 3 weeks. Just commit to that and be a part of it for 3 weeks in a row because it'll make more sense by the end. And you're not going to want to miss any of those. If you're out of town, then just pull it up online and you can watch it. And I'd also encourage you to invite your friends, okay? Like, you might do that. I yesterday invited my cashier at Old Navy. And so I hope that you're here, Jordan. It's good to see you. And also, this isn't a joke. Like, I invited the girl at my gym to come. And so if you're at the Sloan Creek campus, hi, Jesse. So anyways, I just want to encourage you to do that. I really am super, super excited. So I want you to turn to the person beside you. We're going to start by saying this. Turn to them and say, God chooses you. Go ahead, say that. God chooses you. That's good. So for me, at my house, my sweet wife, I often will say to her, you're my chosen bride. So I kind of remind her on a regular basis, I choose you. And when I do that, it's like her countenance changes. It's like, it's so good for her to know that I long for her, that I want for her. And I have to choose her on a regular basis. Like, I have to willingly decide that every day. Like, we've been married 21 years now, this coming June, right? That's exciting, yeah. Thank you. 19 of those years have been really great. We have to choose each other, and it's so important that in a marriage, you have to not just choose her, but be present with her. My wife's heart is filled up when I do acts of service around the house and when I have quality time with her. And I can really tell when I neglect those things and I might choose to not spend time with her. And it's not just time, like she wants me to be present, right? Like to be in the room and actually, listen. She likes that for some reason. So like learning to be present in a world like that has so many distractions, it's actually work today. And I found that as much as we're connected online, we're actually more disconnected in present one-on-one, like being fully engaged in conversation than ever before. And it's really an important thing to be present in your own life and to be present not just in your own marriage, but with your friendships, in every relationship. But every organization will, succeed if you learn to be present with your clients, right? And so it's not just there, but especially with God. I can really tell when I have not been finding time to pray and to be with God and to be present with Him and to listen to Him and learn to do those things, be with God's people and have conversations about the Bible. Like I can really feel when I haven't been present with God. So I want to ask you a few questions to sort of get your mind thinking along with me. Here's the questions. Where does God live? Where does He dwell? We know He's like up in heaven, right? And maybe you've heard the big word omnipresent means that God's everywhere, like He's in everything. but where does he live? Where does God dwell? Another question I might ask you is, have you ever felt the presence of God in your life? Like you've had an experience where you've really gone, God was there, Or maybe another question is, do you pray or do you talk with God? Like that's kind of a crazy question to ask. And for people that don't know anything about God and maybe really don't know anything about the scriptures, as you say, I talk with God, they're going to be like, wow, you talk with G-O-D, little chit-chats, right? Okay, like, you live in crazy town. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, right? Like you talk with God. Like this idea of dwelling with God, being present with God and praying, for a lot of people, that's really a foreign concept. And for a lot of folks, they just don't understand that at all. Even if you've been raised in the church and maybe have known about God your whole life and have a general understanding of what the Bible is, you might still not understand what it means to be present with God. And so I was having this conversation with a friend of mine named Justin Adams, who's a up-and-coming country star, and I lived in Nashville. He was in my men's group. And he was on the road traveling, and he called me one night. He's like, Blake, I'm trying to read the Bible, man. I just don't understand it at all. I don't get the Bible whatsoever, and I try to read it, and I just it doesn't make sense to me. So he goes, would you mind telling me the entire story of God? I'm like, really? And I was driving as well, and I was like, well, you know what? It's like 11 o'clock. Let's do this. So till 1 o'clock in the morning, we had this amazing, engaging conversation about the entire story of God, like from Genesis to Revelation, the whole thing. And so that's sort of what I want to do with this series. I'm going to tell you the story of God. It's going to be like some brush strokes, sort of an understanding of the history of Israel, and we're going to kind of talk about what the Bible is all about, what it really means. And it's going to be, sort of Blake style. So it's going to have a little chicky, chicky, boom, boom, whatever that is. And we're going to have a good time together, okay? We're going to tell the story. I call it the gospel according to Blake 3:16. So we're going to have some fun. And I remember being on this mission trip with the pastor for a week, and he was in front of my team. And at the end of the week, he's like, Pastor Blake, I need to say something to you. You are a different kind of man. I'm like, I don't think that's rude. I don't know what you're saying, but I do kind of tell things in my own flavor and color. So we're going to have fun together. Brace yourself. So I want to start this story by going all the way back. We're going to go to the very beginning of this book in Genesis. And it starts with 3 words. If you don't know the Bible, you might know these first 3 words because it's in the beginning, right? And in the beginning, God spoke. And when he spoke, he said these 3 words. He said, let there be. And when he said, let there be, galaxy after galaxy was being formed. He was speaking, and things were coming into existence. Amazing. And as he was speaking galaxies, he created our galaxy. We'll call it our neighborhood, and it's the Milky Way. And in the Milky Way, on our block, there's a couple of places called Mars and Venus, and then there's planet Earth, little bitty thing between those two. And we're spinning around this massive ball of fire we affectionately refer to as the sun. And so here we are in space, spinning, and God created all of this by speaking. He was speaking, and the entire universe came out of his mouth. Like, that's stupid awesome. And so I might say about the universe, it's really big. It's gigantic. The word that I would probably use is, it's ostentatious. Thank you. I didn't know what that word meant until I looked it up, and so I'm going to share with you what ostentatious means. This is what it means. It means it's a vulgar or pretentious display designed to impress. Synonyms for ostentatious are, I forgot, showy, flamboyant, or extravagant. Like, if I'm looking at God and like, you made this entire universe, like every time we get a new Hubble telescope, it's bigger than we thought. Like, this place is massive. Millions of stars, right? Like, we look at it all like, you did all that for us? Like, if this was all you did for us, your creation, you made this home for us, like, it's some pretty sweet digs. You did a good job, God. Like, thank you, right? It's kind of like the Biltmore House. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's in North Carolina. And this house is referred to as being the largest private dwelling ever built. It was a Vanderbilt home. And it has like 178,926 square feet, right? It's really big. 250 rooms. It has 43 bathrooms. It has 65 fireplaces. That's really big. Like 6 people live there, right? It's like, it's just stupid big. It's ostentatious. Thank you. So my mom is a master's in English, and she's like so impressed with me right now. Like, so smart. Anyway, so if you think about God, like laying out the universe, right? And he did it all for us, just to experience like how much he loves. Like, hey, I made all of creation, laid out the land and the ocean. The ocean, I did that for you. You guys can vacation there, right? People are gonna pay a lot of money for ocean views. Like, the ocean's amazing, right? Vegetation, that's all his work. I love vegetation. Have you ever had a peach? And they have fun, and you bite into it. It was amazing. He did really great with that, didn't he? Like, when I think of like the redwood trees and grass, I love grass. Like, I love tulips and roses. Like, he did an exceptional job. You know, like, they smell so good. Like, I really find God in all of these things. And I'm like, you did all this just so I could experience a home, like every living creature as well. In the sea, like, he hand-painted those. From Nemo to killer whales, that's his painting, right? That's his Picasso, if you will. He made Picasso, right? So like, when you think about like his artwork, he's just stupid creative. And I see God when I experience creation. He made hammerhead sharks before there were hammers. That's funny. That's just good writing right there. That's funny. So I went snorkeling with my wife once, and we were like out in the open ocean and swimming and seeing all these colorful fish all around us. And I was feeling really vulnerable because it's like, you know, sharks infested water in the Caribbean. And like, we're swimming around, and I'm kind of thinking, I'm in that mindset, kind of like scared, like, dude, this is a little bit spooky. I've never snorkeled before. And my wife and I are out there swimming and paddling around. And then right underneath us, this massive stingray just comes out. I've never seen a stingray, right? And it's like, I could have touched it. It's right below us. And so I'm like, I'm screaming. Bubbles are coming out. I come to the top, like, breathing real heavy. My wife's like, you need to chill out. Like, we're fine. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll try. So I don't know if you've been in the ocean and seen like all of God's creation, but just I'm blown away by God in this, especially with animals. Like, I wish so bad I could have been in God's workshop while he's making animals. Like, hey man, I'm thinking this one's gonna bounce on its tail. And I'm gonna make a pouch for its belly so its baby can be in while it's bouncing around. What do you think? I'd be like, that's a great idea, go with that, right? Like, can you imagine God making a giraffe? Like, oh, dude, you know what? I'm gonna grab its head and have a big neck. Okay. I'm gonna make an elephant, or I'm gonna floppy ears and a big trunk and gray and big. Like, God, he's creating, just making stuff. And he's so extravagant in the way that he made this world for us to experience and see it. Birds, they fly. I don't know if you knew that. He made things that, you know, whether it's from a little bitty, tiny, you know, like hummingbird to an eagle, like to ladybug. Can you imagine God like painting a ladybug with polka dots? Hey, that's cool. It's got a hard shell and it can fly. like a turtle. I don't understand how you did that. Amazing, right? Like, amazing. So I'm sorry. You get it. God's in creation. A friend of mine said, Blake, you're kind of like this really smart theologian that's like trapped in a 6-year-old body. Like, just like a little kid when you talk about God. But I am going to ask God when I get to heaven, like, bro, did you mess up when you made a platypus? Like, something happened. His face is jacked. I'm going to ask him, did you step on his face? And you tried to put tar or something and fix it? Or I don't know. He messed up, I guarantee you. Anyways, so the story of God, if we're going to tell the story of God, you have to go back to the beginning of time, the dawn of time, when everything was made. And for me, I do see God in creation. I would ask you to really ponder that question. Do you see God in creation? Because if you do, then you'll realize, man, this is a wonderland. And he made it all just so I could have a home here, so I could have a place with God here in this amazing place. And I need you to know that when he created his very finest work, I need you to know what that is. It's you. You are God's finest work of art. Some of the dudes are like nudging their wife like, yeah, did you hear that? Right here, baby. I'm the finest work of art. It's true. When he made us, he actually breathed his essence, his life, his own spirit into us, and we became like him. It says in Genesis chapter 1, we find that then God said, let us make man in our own image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over the cattle and over all the earth and over every creeping thing that creeps among the earth. So God created man in his own image. In Latin, this is referred to as imago Dei. We bear the image and likeness of our Maker and our Creator. Like, what an incredible privilege that we have God's own divine DNA inside of us so that we can explain and teach the world what God's like when they see us. For some of you to think about God creating everything, there's lots of books about this and shows and talking about creation. And for you, it's a stretch, and it does require faith. Like, you can't say all of that without, having some faith, because none of you were here when it happened, right? And so we have to kind of, realize that, man, it does require faith. But I would also say to you that those of you that don't believe that it was actually created by a brilliant architect and think it just came from absolute chance, I would say to you that it takes a lot more faith to believe that this came from nothing and it was just happenstance, instead of saying that it came from someone and he actually has a plan for us, his creation. It doesn't require as much faith. So for those of you that don't believe that, wow, you've got a lot of faith. So I would say this about this question when you think about God from the very beginning making all of this. So what's the point? Now that we're here and we're earth dwellers, like what's the point, God? Why are we wandering around this planet Earth, right? Well, this is the part that actually blows my mind, because God didn't just build all this just for us. God actually built it to be with us, to dwell amongst us. So it'd be like going to Vanderbilt and he's like, hey, I built this house and it's actually for you. But guess what? I don't want you just to have the house. Like, I'm going to live in there with you because I want to be with you. My wife would be like, I ain't vacuuming all those rooms. But the reality is, you think about planet Earth like that, like he made the universe so we could have a house here. But not just that, it's because he wanted to be here and be amongst us. Like, come on. Turn to the person beside you and say, for real? Is that for real? Yeah, it's for real. It's amazing. So God, when he made Adam and Eve in the garden, he walked amongst them in the cool of the evening. And he wanted to be amongst them and talk with them. It's the same with Noah. Noah was righteous and he walked with God his entire life. And it's the same with Abraham. If you know the story of Abraham, he was actually referred to as the father of our faith. This is really important. Why was he the father of our faith? Because he demonstrated great faith when God asked him to actually murder his only son. And he was willing to do that. He was willing to take his son upon a mountain and stick a knife in his chest to say to God, nothing on this earth is more valuable than you, and I will do whatever you ask. And so he's referred to as the father of our faith. And this is really important. It's important we know this because he's actually God said, I'm going to bless you and I'm going to make your nation great, as numerous as the stars. And so when God said that to Abraham, he was planning on using his lineage, his family, to actually bless the entire earth through God's chosen people. And so it matters to us that we understand this and pay attention to these Hebrew shepherds that were in Egypt, because what happens to them actually matters to us today, because this is the lineage of our Judeo-Christian faith, okay? Are you guys tracking? So to understand that is to understand the history of Israel and understand how God wanted to reveal himself to creation. See, throughout the entire Old Testament, there's one big thesis statement. And that statement is, I will be your God and you will be my people. I will be your God, you will be my, over and over, that's what God wants us to know, is that I want to be your God and you'll be my children, my people. So Abraham, when we learn about Joseph, his son, it's actually taken into slavery, which is an amazing account. He's brought to Pharaoh. God gives him favor, and he actually, there's a drought and a famine, and so he blesses all of the Egyptians. And then because of that, he was able to bring the Israelites amongst the Egyptians, okay? And at first, there is blessing and favor for these Israelites. And they're actually out in these green pastures in these fields, and they're flourishing. They're doing wonderful. And they start to be numerous, and they grow and grow and grow. This group of Hebrew shepherds start to have this amazing growth. And somehow, the Egyptians feel threatened by that. And so they're like, we don't want you to be shepherds anymore. You're actually become our slaves. And so they're taken into bondage for over 400 years. And so during this time, they continue to grow and grow and grow. And they're in the middle of this horrible treatment and this tyranny of the Egyptian slaves. And they start to cry out to God, would you come and deliver us? Please deliver us. Please deliver us. And so God raises up this boy named Moses, who had been chucked into the Nile as a baby and thrown away for trash to die. And one of the people in Pharaoh's court actually brought Moses in, and his name means drawn out. And that's interesting because he actually is the person that drew out the Israelites, because one day God saw him in the desert and spoke to him through a burning bush. A burning bush was on fire and talked to Moses. And he tinkled himself. I don't know that for sure. But I would have. And so he's told by God through this burning bush, go back to the Egyptians and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. He goes to Pharaoh. Pharaoh says no, right? He says, no, I'm not doing it. No, they're our slaves, and forget about it. And that didn't turn out well for him, because now these 11 plagues happen, and these plagues are horrible. I'm talking, one of them was like frogs everywhere. You step on frogs in the shower, in the bathroom, toilet. I don't know that for sure, but maybe. And so there's frogs, there were gnats. Horrible gnats came as another plague. Gnats so bad that when you ride your bike, in your teeth, like gnats everywhere, right? Not just that, but flies came. And then hail so big that it actually killed cows, like big hail. And the cattle died, right? So there's all of these plagues, and he's continuing to go, and hey, let my people go. Pharaoh's like, no, I won't. And so then another darkness plague comes over the land, and the Nile River turns to blood. What? And so all that's gross, it's sticky and red, gross, gooey. Anyways, so the Nile River happens. Then finally, the last one was the firstborn of every person in the land would die if you didn't put the blood of the lamb over your door to escape this angel of death that came through the town. So that's foreshadowing, by the way, week 3. And so the blood of the lamb actually saved the people, and then finally Pharaoh's like, get out of here. My son's dead. I'm done with y'all. Get out of my sight. And they finally are free. They go out into the desert. They're finally set free from the bondage of slavery. And they're out in the desert alone. And God's like a little giddy little girl. We're all together. Let's sing Kumbaya. I'll be your God. You'll be my people. We're together. The Egyptians change their mind, and they start to attack. And they come on to say, we want you back. And God's like, don't worry about it. We're here to party. And I'm going to start this party with a cool party trick. And he drops fire from heaven. He's like, you guys stay here. Now, Moses, walk out into the ocean. Take your stick. And so he takes his rod. He walks out into the ocean. Right. Wow, walls of water. They're like, there's a whale. That's cool. Like, right there, walking through the ocean in dry land. And God delivers them. And then the army tries to follow, and they're swallowed up by the Red Sea. And now they're finally out in the desert, alone with God and safe from their enemies. And I just, for some reason, see God singing the Norah Jones song, come away with me. Anyways, so they're finally alone. They're singing together. They're all finally together. God gives them manna, every single morning. It's cloud by day, fire by night. He's actually with them, and he's like, now let's make a tent. We're going to make a big tent called the Tent of Meeting, and this is where God actually would come down on the people of Israel. Here's what it says in Exodus 29. For the generations to come, this burnt offering is to be made regularly at the entrance to the Tent of Meeting before the Lord. There I will meet you. and speak to you. There also I will meet with the Israelites. So that's kind of cool. Like God said, I'm going to meet you and speak to you. It's like we have a Tuesday Google Calendar, 11:30. I'll meet with you and speak to you. Like they have a meeting with God, and that this place will be consecrated. That word just simply means to be made holy, set apart. So they consecrated by my glory. So God's glory would come on this tent of meeting. So I will consecrate the tent of meeting and the altar, and I will consecrate Aaron and his sons to serve me as priests. Then I will dwell among the Israelites and be their God. They will know that I am the Lord their God who brought them out of Egypt. Why? Why did God bring them out of Egypt? Listen, so that, will you guys say so that? So that I might dwell among them because I am the Lord their God. So all of that was so that God could dwell amongst them. Now, these times when God would reveal himself to humanity, they're called theophanies by theologians, and it simply means that. It's to make appearances before us as God. And God revealed himself in amazing ways with in the days of old with our patriarchs and these Hebrew shepherds. And he would reveal himself through earthquakes and through wind and through fire and through a still small voice and these mighty acts and displays of God's power. And so it was also we could experience the manifest glory of God, his Shekinah, his glory is sometimes referred to as the Kabod Yahweh. His manifest presence would show up amongst people, and these are called theophanies. So one of my favorite stories of this happening was when Moses was actually up on Mount Sinai, and he's getting the 10 Commandments, right? And so he's talking with God, and he's like, God, I don't ever want to leave or go anywhere without your presence. Like, they're having this conversation in Exodus 33. And finally, he says to God, in fact, you know what? I want to see you. Will you show me your glory? Can I see you, God? I feel that. Sometimes I just want to say that to God. I want to see you. And so God says, man, okay, here's the deal. In Exodus 33, he says, then the Lord said, there's a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock to cover you with my hand until I have passed by. And then I will remove my hand, and you will see my back. But my face must not be seen. So this is amazing. God says, okay, I'm going to let you see me. But if you see my face, you'll die. So you can't see that. And so he walks by, he hides him in the cleft of a rock, covers him, and then he walks by. And for me, because I'm like a middle schooler, I've always thought of God walking by him and he's wearing a hospital gown. Because he's the glory of his backside. Anyways, so stupid. I'm sorry. I'm so dumb. Anyways, he walks by and he sees his glory, and then you won't believe what happens. You gotta read this. I'm not making this in the Bible. So he walks by, and then check out this verse. When Moses came down from Mount Sinai after that, with the 2 tablets of the covenant law in his hands, he was not aware. He was not aware that his face was radiant. That's hilarious. It's like his face is like a light bulb. It's like illuminating, shining. And so because he had, what does it say? Because he had spoken with the Lord. So he's with God. His face turns into like this illuminating bright light. And he sees his brother Aaron, and his brother's like, dude, like you're jacked up. It ran from him. And so he had to cover his face the rest of his life like a veil because his face was on. Like I've spent a lot of time praying. Like praying, really, like fasting on my knees, but my face has never shined like a bright light. It would just be awesome if it did. But anyways, that's what happened to Moses. So God's presence, listen, it changes us. It really does. If you've ever been alone with God and experienced his presence in your life, you know that you can't walk away and be the same. God changes you. If not your face turning to a bright light, he changes you on the inside. He gives this light that's inside of your heart that's just, you can't explain, but you're different after being with God. And so that's kind of like Genesis and Exodus we just covered. Pretty good. And Exodus starts by this account of the Israelites being drawn out. And then the very last chapter and verse of Exodus is actually them being at the tent of meeting and what God wanted to do. And here's what it says in Exodus 40. Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And then the very last verse in the book of Exodus says this. So the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel during all of their travels. And so you say, wow, so God was with them in all of their travels. God's presence was amongst them, which would be really cool. Like, where's God? Oh, I don't know. Just look at your tent. Oh, cool. Here he is. That's sick, nasty. Right? There's God in the cloud by day, fire by night. And so you might be thinking, so what, Blake? Why does this apply to me? And how, this is like an old story, ancient. It's outdated. Doesn't matter. Recently, I've really been connecting with the Israelites' wanderings throughout the desert. And my thought has been this: if God was with them, was that enough? Because as soon as they got there, you know what they started to do? They started to grumble and complain, and I'm sick of this manna every day. I really wish I still had Egypt. And they said, did you bring us out here just to die, Moses? Like, what's your plan, bro? And they're complaining and grumbling, complaining and grumbling. And I think many of us can probably relate to the fact of holding on to the past because the future looks so unclear and unsettled. And I know the past. It's like a comfortable shoe. And I can put it on. I've been there. I experienced that old, bad, horrible relationship that I've been in. It may be messed up, but it's what I know. And I may be in slavery and in bondage to that, but I still get it. So I'm going back to it. Maybe for you, that's not just like a bad relationship, but bad friendships that you continue to just navigate towards. Or maybe it's actually substance abuse, whether it's like an actual, drug that you're struggling with or a prescription drug, and you just continue to go back to it because it makes you feel comfortable, and you're in bondage to it. It's certainly got you in shackles, but it doesn't matter because it feels right. Or there's all kinds of things that you can put in that place. And even though God's drawn you out and you're completely free, it's funny how they had their entire tribe, like everybody that they know and love is finally together. And they're with all of these people, and yet they wanted to go back to, and they felt really alone. And recently I've been connecting with that. Like a friend of mine, I just had lunch with him, and he said, Blake, I have an amazing job, amazing wife, brand new kid. He's super successful. And he says, I just got to tell you, I feel desperately alone. Like nobody really understands me. Nobody gets me. And I've been thinking about the vastness of the desert and sort of the vastness of our heart and our soul. And when I think of the soul, I actually think of like Nemo coming up to the reef, the barrier reef, and he looks out into the depth of the ocean, and it's like so big and so scary and so unknown, and he's fearful, and he's like, I'm not swimming past this point because I don't know what's out there, right? I think of that when I think of my heart. Sometimes in my own heart, I feel so alone, and it feels so big, it feels too big. And I look at the vastness of the universe, and I see God and how he kind of designed us maybe to feel this way. And I've been praying recently, God, what's the lonely for? Why is it here? Because all of us have this sense of like, it's so big. And I try to communicate like everything that happens in my day, right? Like everything that I feel, but I can't really explain everything that I saw and experienced, my collective, things I know and read. And in a day's time, let alone a week and months and years pass. And it's like, nobody really understands me and my story. Are you guys tracking with me? I think we just sometimes feel really alone. Because there's a lonely in our own heart, in our own self. I'll never forget the very first ministry I had. This forever changed me. I had a little ministry in Newport, Tennessee, which is the east side over by the Smoky Mountains. And I was a rafting guide there, and I loved hiking and being outdoors. And I had this youth group of about 10 kids. And it was a church of about 100, First Christian Church of Newport, Tennessee. And I took 6 of the kids, the only 6 boys, on a hike. I'm like, let's go experience this place that I found as a rafting guide called the Midnight Hole. And it's like this amazing waterfall that nobody knows about. It's only 2 miles back, and it's got these 2 massive rocks and this waterfall that pours down between those 2 rocks. And you can climb up on the rocks and jump down into the waterfall, and it pushes you underneath. You can swim underneath the waterfall. It's so fun. And I tell my wife, I'm going to spend at least 10,000 years when I get to heaven at this Midnight Hole. And so, anyways, I bring these kids up there. We go on this walk, and there's this one kid in my youth group that his name is Billy. And Billy is like super shy, like uber shy, never talks, and we're all together, and he's always over by himself alone, doesn't really want people around him, and he's kind of always pushed people away, and he's overweight, and you can tell there's just real insecurity and fear, and as much as I was trying, I just could never, get him to, engage, and so finally one day I'm like, hey, let's go on a hike, and I want you to come. He's like, no, I don't hike, I don't want to do that. I'm like, come on, man. It'll be and I named all the kids that'll be there, and come on, you gotta come, please. I'll stay with you the whole time. And so we do the hike, he comes, and I have to stay in the back because he is a lot slower than everyone else, and we're just walking up and talking. Well, I was talking. And if you can imagine that, I run my mouth a lot. So we're talking the whole way up. We get there, and isn't this amazing? Come on, let's swim. And so we run up on the top, and we're all jumping in, swimming underneath this waterfall, and they're having the time of their life. And Billy never jumps. He's just standing up there looking down. And I'm like, come on, man, I'll jump with you. Come on, let's do it together. He's like, no, I'm not doing it. No, maybe in a little bit. Just give me some time. So he's standing up there. We jump. We're all jumping, and we're swimming around, and we're coming back up. And as I'm coming back up, I'm looking for Billy, and I can't find him. I'm like, Billy, where are you? Anybody seen Billy? I look down in the water, and there's Billy at the bottom of the water. And he's not trying to move. He's just sitting down there. His body's lifeless. And so I immediately dive in. I grab him, and I swim to the top, which was hard. I swim up, and I get him up to the top, and I put him on the side, and then he's not breathing. And so I didn't know what to do. I just hit his back as hard as I could and start pounding on him and try to get him to, come, and he starts coughing. I'm like, oh, okay. And so he give him a little bit of time. I'm like, Billy, what are you doing? Why didn't you try to swim? What? He goes, I don't really know how to swim. I go, yeah, I saw that. I was there. And I asked him, why did you do that? Why did you jump in when you can't swim? He goes, because I just always wanted to connect with these guys. I just wanted to have some friends. And all of the friends were sitting there like, bro, you were willing to die to be our friend? Come on. And from then on, Billy became a rock star in my youth ministry. Those boys, they were like, everywhere we go, you're going with us. And they would drag him, and he started to come to life because some boys decided to be present. Some boys decided to actually engage with him and help him experience love. We long to be connected. We long to be connected to God and with one another. And we're often just so bad at it, aren't we? We're so bad at being present and actually engaging with one another. But I would just encourage you. It's so easy to sort of turn inward, isn't it? And to sort of be focused on my own pain, my own desperation, my own loneliness, my own how I feel so separated, and I'm depressed, and I have fear, and all these things that we battle with, that we just kind of always focus on ourselves. When if we just recognize that, hey, maybe a lot of people feel like I do. Maybe a lot of people actually feel alone. And if that's the case, I don't want them to feel that way. So I'm gonna do something about it. I'm gonna engage the people around me to help them understand that I actually know God and I talk with him. That's crazy. But because of that, I have this hope and this peace and this patience and this kindness and this love that is real. And I want you to have that hope.
Because if you'll experience that hope, you'll realize something very important, and I can talk about this the rest of my life. You are not alone. God has not left us. He has not forsaken us. He's the great I am, the God of all time. His name actually means I haven't ever been. I am who I am. I won't never be. Like I am, I'm here with you. I'm the God of the ages, the rock of ages. He's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning, and he's never stopped. He never can't not be. He's always been because he's God. And he is here, and he is with us, dwelling amongst us. And because of that, we have the hope of the world with us, inside of us. Come on, man, that's the good news right there. That's the good news. And I don't know about you, but this series, it's for me. I need to be reminded of that. And I need to be reminded that I have a job to do, and that's to engage the people around me that don't have what I have. Will you guys pray with me? Father, thank you so much for changing us when you're with us. Thank you for the over 175 people that just recently chose to be baptized, to give their life to you, God. I pray that this would be an on-ramp to their faith, to understanding the story that you've given us, to understand that you're actually with us. And I know that they will be attacked by the enemy of darkness, and I pray for protection over them. Fill them with your Spirit, Lord. And I pray you'd guide their steps and give them godly friends around them, Lord, and lead them by the power of your Spirit as we trot upon this earth. God, be with us in this journey. Help us to not feel alone, even though it feels so small down here and you're so big. But God, thank you for letting us know that you created this masterful wonder of peace, this wonderland called planet Earth, so we could find a home. And not just find a home here, but to dwell with you, God. Wow. We love you with all of our heart. It's in your name we pray. Everybody said, amen.